The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
We've talked on the bonus show and I think on the regular show before just about sort of like work rules and attendance policies and vacation time and related issues. And there's a couple stories that have come out sort of connected to Hurricane Irma in terms of employees who were possibly or definitely going to miss work because, you know, there's a hurricane and in some places an evacuation order. And reportedly, the manager of a Pizza Hut that was in the path of Hurricane Irma was threatening to discipline workers who followed the evacuation order and left outside of a designated time frame. I guess the idea was they weren't telling the employees not to evacuate at all, but they were saying, we want you to do it only within a particular time frame. And if you do it outside of that, it's going to be a problem. And a photo began circulating of a picture. Someone took a picture of a memo at a Jacksonville Pizza Hut location, which had a list of instructions for employees. And it says, you know, basically it's telling minimum wage employees that they need to put their jobs above their safety.
Well, it's saying that safety is of our utmost importance when it comes to our employees, but you still have a responsibility to the community and you have to show up to work. And then if you don't show up to work, it's going to be treated as a no call, no show. Presumably, even if you tell us ahead of time.
Right.
It's pretty ridiculous.
24 hours before the storm, and they had to be back within 72 hours of the... It doesn't really say what. Like, is it they have to be back within 72 hours of the beginning of the storm or of the end of the storm? It's not really clear. And, you know, okay, fine, this is Pizza Hut, and who knows how connected to this Pizza Hut corporate is. This might have been a decision made at the store level. It's not totally clear to me. For me, the bigger issue is just the general way in which employees are treated when it comes to this stuff around safety and just basically common sense. And it relates to work culture in the U.S. at large, I believe.
Yeah, there's no common sense here. I mean, I understand some jobs you can't take it off for any reason, even if there is a storm coming. If you're a first responder, if you work in the medical field, I mean, people need you, and that's the time that you're going to be most called upon, right?
Sure.
But if you work at Pizza Hut, I mean, you're not delivering an essential service.
No, well, I don't know.
I mean, you know, people do need food.
Yes, they
do. But they don't need prepared food. They don't need someone to go deliver pizza to them. I mean, you'd like to hope that people stocked up on canned goods and stuff like that.
Well, even if they didn't, it wouldn't be the minimum wage Pizza Hut employees' sole responsibility to resolve that for people. And I think we're also forgetting that from a totally pragmatic standpoint, if everything's flooded, customers can't get to Pizza Hut, and Pizza Hut delivery drivers can't get to customers either. So, like, what exactly are you going to be doing?
There was a story out of Hurricane Harvey where a manager of I don't know if it was Pizza Hut or some other restaurant, delivered pizza using a kayak.
Oh, is that right?
And maybe the people were hungry and she fulfilled her job, but you can't expect that from everyone.
I didn't hear that one. No, that's quite a dedicated employee. Yeah, I mean, what else can we say? Well, I think what I can say is, I am not going to Pizza Hut again.
Well, I think it's well known and infamous at this point that I once worked at Domino's Pizza when I was 17 years old, and they told us that for no reason could we take off Super Bowl Sunday.
You just can't take that day off. That's
I think
like
that
the
makes
pizza,
sense.
It's the pizza, what would you call it? Pizza Christmas?
It's like the Super Bowl of the pizza industry.
Right, yeah, okay.
But, I mean, I think that would make sense.
Yeah, right. It's sort of like if you say I'm going to work retail, or I'm going to sell cars, but I can't work weekends. It's like, well, weekends are when many more cars are sold because that's when more people have time off to go and look at cars.
Or I'm going to do retail, but I can't work Black Friday. You got to work Black Friday.
Got to work Black Friday. When I worked at Circuit City, I was there at 6 a.m. on Black Friday, which seems late now compared to stores that open at 6 p.m. the previous day or something like that.
I once waited in line on Black Friday, and once I got to the front of the line, all I got was a Butterfinger.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
What was it? Like
I was there all night.
Was it a deal on Butterfingers?
No, there was no deal. I just thought it would be funny if I waited outside all night and then ran into the store and bought a Butterfinger and left.
All right, well, funny is not the word I thought, but that's, hey, kids have a lot of time on their hands sometimes, you know? Brian Kilmeade from Fox News compared victims of 9/11 basically to slave-owning generals who were trying to destroy the way of life of the United States by fighting a civil war to keep slavery legal. This is the weirdest thing. Brian Kilmeade on Fox and Friends was speaking with Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke before he joined Vice President Mike Pence at the 9/11 memorial in Pennsylvania. Of course, there's a 9/11 memorial in Pennsylvania In addition to the one in New York City, the Pennsylvania one dedicated to those who died when hijackers took over Flight 93 on 9/11 of 2001. And Kilmeade said, do you worry that 100 years from now, someone is going to take that memorial down like they're trying to remake our memorials today? And then he continued to talk about Confederate figures who have monuments to them, like Robert E. Lee, as if there's any similarity whatsoever between the victims of the 9/11 attacks and those fighting to perpetrate slavery during the Civil War. I don't know if the reaction should be that this is an incredibly poor taste and a disservice and disrespectful to the victims of 9/11, or if it's just indicative of a level of stupidity the likes of which should not be on national media in the United States.
Well, just because the analogy doesn't make any sense. It's completely backwards. I mean, if there was some statue of Osama bin Laden out somewhere in the middle of the country, then that would make sense to draw the comparison to Confederate generals, I guess, because they both attacked the country.
It's closer. It's closer. It's a closer analogy than the victims of 9/11 and generals of the Confederate Army. And it was a total non sequitur. I mean, nobody knew why he even chose to make this analogy.
He didn't think it through. And, maybe some people out there just think that we shouldn't have statues at all or commemorate history in any sort of way.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I mean, I think it's important for us to educate ourselves about the horrors of the past and, even in a positive light to see a statue of like Abraham Lincoln or George Washington. I mean, it doesn't really upset me.
No, it doesn't upset. The idea of statues is not really at issue here, and that's why it's so weird that Brian Kilmeade would even choose to bring this up. And Zinke seemed to realize this was not a good direction for the conversation to go, because he gave a really vague answer, just saying, monuments are part of our country's history. And everyone is going to fall morally short since everyone is a sinner, I guess. All statues you could point to and say that person had moments of falling short morally, other than Jesus, of course.
Yeah, but the response is coming back to me, and he said that because we're not erecting a statue of Jesus, then we're all going to face him on Judgment Day, and he's going to look down upon that. But we can't be having a statue of Jesus on government property. That would be unconstitutional.
There's that, but also, now that I'm thinking about it, by saying that any statue other than a statue of Jesus would fall short of perfect morality, he kind of is saying that the victims of 9/11 and Confederate generals both have misdeeds somewhere in their lives, and thus no statue is perfect. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Zinke also is part of the problem here, because he's also making an analogy, saying, hey, whether it's a victim of 9/11 or a Confederate general fighting in favor of slavery, they both have things in their past that we might find distasteful.
And it also depends on what denomination of Christianity you follow, too, because there are plenty that are opposed to idols in general, that we shouldn't be erecting statues of Jesus, that we shouldn't have icons and any sort of imagery of him, I think the Westboro Baptist Church follows this, too.
They don't believe there should be any images.
To the best of my knowledge,
Huh, interesting.
Because they look at it as like an idol.
Idolatry, yeah. I mean, I know, in Judaism, that's a common thing. Like, absolutely no statues or representations of God or whatever you call it, him,
even
her.
Like prophets, even like Moses.
I don't know. Is Moses considered a
prophet?
I know so little.
Yeah.
I don't think Moses is a prophet.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I know I should probably know more about this. I did go to Hebrew school for 3 months once in 5th grade, but I guess we didn't cover that day. You can spend a lot of time in the modern working world sitting down, and you can also spend a lot of time sitting without having a break from that, and it turns out that it's really bad for you. It seems that there is significant health benefit to standing up. Some people say once an hour. Other studies say, like, for example, one recently published, that you should be standing up at least for a couple minutes every 30 minutes. And it seems like no matter what the particulars are, in addition to exercise and having a healthy diet, etc., that you could be doing all that stuff, and if you sit for long periods of time, it's not good for you. I think of airline pilots who often, even during long flights, you don't see them leave the cockpit at any point. I mean, I think it's very common, like on when I go to Vegas, usually I fly JetBlue because they have a nonstop flight from Boston to Vegas. And there's no first class on a lot of JetBlue flights. And so you can often end up sitting like right by the cockpit, and it's a completely unobstructed view, 6-hour flight.
Yeah.
The pilots will not leave the cockpit. And I often think about pilots and not standing up, but obviously office work and many, many other jobs come to mind as well. It's really not good for you.
This makes me want to do the rest of the bonus show standing up because I'm just worried about my health and safety.
We stand a lot here, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the video editing desk is a high desk where you could sit in a high chair, but we also you can stand at it. And I have a standing desk as well, and I stand most of the day, actually. Other than when I'm doing the show, I'm basically standing most of the time I'm here.
You do stand while you do work a lot more than I do. I tend to divide my time maybe 40% of the time standing, 60% of the time sitting. I just have a tough time writing when I'm standing.
Is that right?
Do you find that?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't find that, no.
Yeah,
I actually
it's good to have the option.
I have an easier time writing while standing because my chair that I have at my desk has armrests. So actually, when I'm sitting, my elbows hit the armrests, and it's more difficult to write. So I prefer to stand while I'm typing on my computer.
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole thing makes sense because it's not like humans were designed or evolved to sit in chairs.
Not really.
You know,
no.
like just to stand up and lie down. If you're going to sit, maybe it would be on the floor or up against a rock or something. It just seems like it's so incredibly unnatural and you know, not good for your posture if you're sitting incorrectly.
What I might do is start bringing my laptop and lay down under the studio desk actually and do work because I think that being in repose is a much more natural position.
What about that yoga ball trend where people would bring yoga balls into an office so they could sit up straight and arc their back the whole time?
You can still slouch in sitting on a yoga ball.
It's true.
That's the thing. I never fully understood. It seemed kind of like a gimmick. I don't know. I get that you have to engage more of your muscles if you have no backrest. And I guess if you're on the yoga ball, you also could be sliding sideways. So there's probably something to it.
Have you seen those treadmill desks?
Yes, I have.
Those seem like absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure they accomplish the goal.
It does, but when I read about how people have set up basically a reading platform on a treadmill, and when they're doing just reading, that they put the treadmill at like 1.5 miles an hour or something like that, like a very, very slow walk so it doesn't become in any way distracting, and that if you read for a half hour, that you end up getting a lot of walking in every single week just while you're reading. It's actually pretty interesting to me.
And it's a lot safer than reading a book walking around outside because who knows what you'll run into.
Totally.
I mean, me, if I'm going to go in that direction, I'd rather just listen to an audiobook and take a walk outside. But hey, that's just me.
Well, that is just you. I think that that's the best conclusion we can draw from that. Okay, well, listen, I don't think it's any surprise that sitting is bad, sedentary lifestyle is bad, and I've been aware of this since we moved into this studio nearly 2 years ago. I have had a standing desk. Yeah. And we're actually talking to the manufacturer of the standing desk I use about sponsorship on the program because I believe it's a great product. But I won't mention the company now.
No. I mean, I think it's pretty dangerous if you go to work, sit 8 hours a day, and then you drive home, maybe your hour commute, and then you go home and watch TV. You're sitting down for the entire day.
You could have two people, both of whom go to the gym for 45 minutes 5 times a week, one of whom stands at work and takes the subway in. Another who sits at work and drives in, and even though they might have an identical diet and the identical time spent at the gym,
that's a lot of time at the gym.
Drastically,
5 days a week.
Drastically different health outcomes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, I think I'm done with this topic. I don't want to forget this. I meant to mention this yesterday, and I forgot. And I want your help with 2 things. Number 1. We're approaching a sort of dual milestone for the show. Despite YouTube Adpocalypse wreaking havoc on one end, we are approaching 400,000 YouTube subscribers and 2,000 Patreon patrons. And it's kind of nice round numbers, 2,000, 400,000. So I was thinking maybe we should do something connected to this milestone, 2,000 and 400,000. But I have absolutely no idea what it would be.
Are we going with the 2x4 thing?
Yeah, 2x4.
Bring in pieces
2,000 by 400,000, 2x4. Maybe I'll bring in pieces of wood, construction lumber, and maybe build a little fort around my desk where you only see like the top of my head for an entire show.
I'd like to see that.
Or something. I don't know. But anyway, if people in the audience have ideas for what we might be able to do, or if you want to sponsor some memberships in congratulations of that milestone, whatever, that's one thing. The other thing, this is a really easy ask, okay? We have a possible new advertiser that is a language learning platform called Live Lingua. And unlike some other online learning platforms for languages, this one is actually classes with live native speakers of the languages you're trying to learn. They are doing an ad today. They decided to try just a single day of advertising on the show. And based on the response today, they may do a longer campaign, which, by the way, would be really, really good for us. So they're offering a free trial lesson, right, at livelingua.com/Pakman. Costs you nothing. And then after that, it's your call whether you continue or not. Please visit the website, livelingua.com/Pakman. Please make sure that you're going to /Pakman, because that's how they'll know if you came from our show. And sign up and maybe take a free language lesson, okay?
Yeah,
because, and I think a lot of people in the audience would enjoy it. I think a lot of people in the audience understand the value of learning a second language or third language, whatever. And it would really help us to show that the David Pakman Show would be a good fit for advertising. So please do that. Costs you nothing. livelingua.com/Pakman. That's live, LINGUA.com/PAKMAN. And with peace and love, thank you in advance, and more tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.